Pope Francis has died at the age of 88 on this Easter Monday. News coming from the Vatican just a short while ago confirming that he passed away at his residence in Rome. He is, of course, the first Southern Hemisphere Pope from Argentina and took up the papacy back in 2013. In fact, it was the 13th of March at the time, taking over from Pope Benedict XVI. In fact, he's also the first pontiff from Latin America. And so in many ways, there's going to be a reflection of how he's done things differently. He was hospitalized on the 14th of February this year at the Gemelli Hospital in Rome, the Vatican confirming that he had developed pneumonia in both his lungs. And in fact, it's since emerged that at a very young age, he apparently had a major operation affecting his lung. And I suppose that's what might have exacerbated difficulties in his recovery during this period. He had also, I remember at the very onset of his papacy, it had emerged that Pope Francis was actually a bouncer before taking up the decision to go into a religious life. And I suppose that's why he has had a unique resonance with ordinary people. In fact, he's been famously quoted as saying, "My people are poor and I am one of them." In fact, he said this more than once, explaining his decision to live in an apartment and cook his own supper. He's always advised his priests around the world to show mercy and, what's called apostolic coverage in order to keep their doors open to everyone. In fact, he's gone on to say, and this is a direct quote, "The worst thing that could happen to the church was on various occasions is, a spiritual worldliness, which means being self-centered." And I suppose that also helps us better understand why often he'd break away from his security detail in order to touch quite literally ordinary people from around the world during his many pilgrims to far-flung places, including places like Iraq, as I mentioned earlier, the first pope to visit that war-torn place where, of course, no surprises, he used the opportunity to call for world peace. And in fact, as we see him in that airplane, I'm reminded of yet another quote he's mentioned. He was stepping out of an airplane when he was asked about whether or not the Catholic Church would ever change its view around same-sex marriage. And he famously said, "Who am I to judge?" Words that, of course, on the surface seem pretty simple, but if you know the history of the Catholic Church, would have sent reverberations around the world. Of course, given the fact that the Church's teachings have always been very clear about where they stand insofar as that controversial issue is concerned. But meeting many world leaders, you can see there Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, who's interacted with the Pope. This is the same man who's also interacted with Vladimir Putin. Both those world leaders currently fixed in a protracted war in Eastern Europe that's still ongoing. Live shot a shot, I beg your pardon, not live, but a shot once again of the Gemelli Hospital where he was hospitalized for a couple of weeks. In fact, if memory serves, he was discharged he was admitted on the 14th of February and discharged just a few weeks ago and had interactions with people across a wide range of professions. I think that's some of the famous Hollywood actors that he has also interacted with over time, and many others, including, as I mentioned, world leaders as well, who I imagine will have a word or two as the world digests this historic moment. No matter where you stand on the influence of the Church, its role throughout history, many people will tell you that this is indisputably a turning point once again for this historic institution, which will very soon enter discussions around who takes over the chair of St. Peter, as it's referred to.